La 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 la. Again. La 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 la. I can hear the frogs again. Hop. Friends, okay? We've all been learning about the 1916 Rising, about Owen MacNeill and Pierce McCan. Our local connection and a great coincidence is that Owen MacNeill had a daughter called Eilish MacDougall. She in turn had a daughter called Louise Farrell, and Louise Farrell had a daughter, Eleanor Farrell, who is actually a great-granddaughter of Owen MacNeill. Now, Pierce McCan lived in Ballyowen in Dualla. He had a nephew, Frank McCan. Frank's son, Pierce McCan, was a grandnephew of Pierce McCan. And Sophie is Pierce McCan's great-grandniece. And isn't it a coincidence that 80 years later, the great-granddaughter of Owen MacNeill and the great-grandniece of Pierce McCan should be together in a little rural school in County Tipperary.
He was Owen MacNeill, 1867 to 1945. He was born in County Antrim, 1867. He was educated at home, and then he went to a boys' school. He was reading a book in class instead of listening to the teacher. The teacher told him to put out his hand to be slapped, but he refused to. So he got expelled from school. His parents weren't too happy. He got educated at home again until he could go to college. He went to St. Malachy's College in Belfast. He got an honours degree in economics, law and history.
So now we will go up to Ballyowen, to the home of Pierce McCan, and Frank will tell us some stories about Pierce as a young boy and about his arrests. Okay, let's go.
When it was decided that the rebellion in 1916 was not to go forward for reasons which you already know about, it was necessary for Owen MacNeill to send messengers to various parts of the country to countermand the order of the rebellion. So, to Tipperary and to Ballyowen in particular, Owen MacNeill sent his son, Brian, and another man, the O'Reilly, who was very much involved also. And they arrived to Ballyowen and informed Pierce McCan that the rebellion was not going to go ahead. Of course, unknown to Owen MacNeill, it was decided by Pádraig Pearse and other members who were members of the IRB that they would have a rebellion.
On Easter Monday, 1916, Pádraig Pearse stood outside the GPO on Saxville Street, now O'Connell Street, and he read the Declaration of Independence. This informed England and the world that they were willing to fight and die for total freedom of Ireland. 7 leaders signed it. They took over the GPO, Jacob's factory and other big buildings. Fierce fighting took place all week. Many were wounded, many were killed, many buildings were destroyed. The English were better armed, and to prevent further bloodshed, Pádraig Pearse surrendered to Brigadier General Lowe and Major Wheeler the following Saturday.
As the First World War was drawing to a close, the Allies, Britain, France, were very much afraid that Germany might come and attack them from the rear by landing in Ireland. There was no such intention ever on the German authorities, who were then being beaten at that stage in 1917. But for the purpose of arresting as many of the Irish, because the English authorities feared that there'd be another insurrection here while they were again fighting Germany, as happened in 1916, they thought up a plot, and it was called subsequently the German plot. And under that, they were able to arrest countless hundreds of Irish people and intern them. So on the 18th, but at 4 o'clock in the morning, on the 18th of March, his mother heard a noise outside the front door. And looking out, she saw that the police were there. And she rushed to where Pierce was sleeping and called him. And he had only a very short time to dress himself as quickly as possible while she delayed opening the front door. The police, when they came here, they were very annoyed that he had escaped. And they followed him up around, having searched the area, and they followed up to the wood. And at first they had no success. But one of the policemen sprained his ankle, and he sat down under the very tree where Pierce McCan was hiding. And a twig fell, and he looked up, and Pierce was discovered.
On the second or third day after our removal to Connemara, as one of the wardens was about to close my door, I saw Mrs. McNeil come into the hall below and began to mount the stairs. I asked the warden to leave the door open until she passed. He did so, and as she was passing I spoke a word to her. She asked me was I getting any food from outside. I said not, but from that day forward she sent me 3 meals per day. Though the prison food had been improved, we were still always hungry, and I still remember my delight when I got my first breakfast from outside. No champagne ever tasted as well to a wine lover as that first cup of tea with milk in it tasted to me.
He died on the 6th of March, 1919.
What age was he?
And he was 36.
Have you any questions for Mr. McCann? No? Sha. What's the question, dear Maeve?
Why did he get dead?
Why did he get dead? How did he die, I think she wants to know.
A dreadful epidemic of flu swept Europe, in which more people were killed by that flu than during the war. And that flu came to other prisons in England. It finally came to Gloucester, and Pierce McCan and 4 or 5 others were affected, and they were removed to a nursing home. And his mother and father were called over to Gloucester, and they were present for a day or so before he died.
Yes, we all remember his funeral. I was on the side of the road with my people, and in every house, with all the people were out. And see the coffin draped in the green, white and gold.
And I remember Katie Murphy, she worked with my aunt, and she was able to play the mouth organ, and she played the Dead March as a tune.
The Wayfarer by Padraig Pearse. The beauty of the world had made me sad, this beauty that will pass. Sometimes my heart had shaken with great joy to see a leaping squirrel in a tree, or a red ladybird upon a stalk, or little rabbits in a field at evening lit by a slanting sun, or some green hill where shadows drifted by, some quiet hill where mountainy man had sown and soon would reap, near to the gate of heaven, or children with bare feet upon the sands of some out sea, or playing on the streets of little towns and Connacht, things young and happy. And then my heart had told me, these will pass and change, will die and be no more. Things bright and green, things young and happy, and I have gone upon my way, sorrowful.
Would you like to kill somebody? Yes. An English one? Why? Linda?
They just took our country over, and they were really mad, so we just want to fight back.
And do you think we were right to fight for our country back?
Yeah.
I do not grudge them. Lord, I do not grudge my 2 strong sons that I have seen go out to break their strength and die. They in a few in bloody protest for a glorious thing. They shall be spoken of among their people. The generations shall remember them and call them blessed. But I will speak their names to my own heart in the long nights. The little names that were familiar once were on my dead heart.
Do you think there was any other way so they could have gained freedom for Ireland?
They couldn't have gone politics because...
Politics hasn't worked.
Lord, thou art hard on mothers. We suffer in their coming and their going. And though I grudge them not, I weary of the long sorrow. And yet I have my joy. My sons were faithful and they fought.
I see blood among the rose, and in the stars the glory of his eyes. His body gleams amid eternal snow. His tears fall from the skies. I see his face in every flower, the thunder and the singing of the birds. Heard his voice and governed by his power. Rocks are his written words. Rocks are his written words. All pathways by his feet are worn. His stronger stirs the ever-beating sea. His crown of thorns is twined with every thorn. His cross is every tree.
Would you like to have been involved in 1916? Would you? How many of you would like to have been involved in 1916? No, how many of you would not like to have been involved? You like your freedom, do you?
Doesn't matter, still like to live.
Like to live. And you were happy we did it, were you? We'll do another one like it sometime. Not for a long time. Okay? Finito!